Hi there, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Gregory Brennan. I'm a program coordinator with Virginia Clean Cities, and this is a partnership presentation given by the EPA on the Clean Heavy Duty Vehicles CHDV grant program and information session. So if you'd like to know more about that grant program for clean heavy duty vehicles, please listen in. We will also list below the contact information for everyone speaking today. If you'd like to know more, please feel free to comment below with your questions. We will get to them as soon as we can. And also, my email is below. Like I said, my name is Gregory Brennan. And with that, I will pass it over to Alan, the director of Virginia Clean Cities.
My name is Alan Harned, and I am the director of Virginia Clean Cities. And I appreciate everybody coming here out with us today on this luxurious, end of June. I think a lot of people are on a lot of the pupil transportation and municipal folks are taking their just deserves vacations, and I am too. And I want to tell everybody how important it is for me that we're doing a workshop of this nature, and then we're all pushing forward on these positive changes in the time ahead. I'm just going to provide just a brief note about Virginia Clean Cities as we get rolling. And also buy some time for our earliest speaker talking about this critical program, the EPA Clean Heavy Duty Vehicle Program. And so just as an entry, Virginia Clean Cities and Communities is a nationwide partnership advancing the nation's environment, energy security, and economic prosperity through collaboration with communities, building partnerships with public and private stakeholders to create an equitable deployment of clean transportation solutions for all. The program has deployed millions of alternative fuel vehicles, reduced millions of tons in emissions, and provided a consistent nationwide approach to try to improve our energy security with more than 72,000 alternative fuel stations built over 31 years. The program is spread out nationwide, and the Virginia Clean Cities program is a statewide technology coalition working with cities, communities, counties, businesses, and all to plan, connect, inform, and deploy alternative fuel stations. And we're here at James Madison University, forming an interconnected network of places that are seeking and facilitating this change for these cleaner fuels for the transportation sector and reducing our emissions. Our portfolio includes a range of driver choices and fuel economy. We have a anti-idling workshop happening today in Chesapeake, Virginia, but it ranges for right-sizing fleets, reducing idling, bikes and land use, as well as advanced alternative fuel vehicles. Advanced vehicles like hybrids and plug-in hybrids and alternative fuel vehicles that span the gamut. Including clean heavy-duty vehicles. Our goal is to achieve a departure from our expensive fuels and a transition to cleaner, net zero, and decarbonized fuel changes, because the transportation sector is our largest source of greenhouse gases in the Commonwealth of Virginia at about 50 million metric tons a year. And for that benefit of being the greatest harm, we also choose to spend about $50 million a day on that sector. And so all this is just to introduce that change is underway. We've got more than 100 green fleets and communities that are working on very significant changes. I wanted to share that we've also done heavy duty vehicles in Virginia before with some funding for electric transit buses, port electrification, and clean school buses, as well as the Clean Air Communities program, which deployed additional vehicles. So not just school buses, and school buses are definitely eligible for this, but also heavy duty vehicles, such as electric trash trucks and medium duty trucks and shuttle trucks from the Virginia Volkswagen settlement. And so there are peers to connect with. Transit buses and school buses were also very popular vehicles to replace in heavy duty vehicle replacement programs in Virginia. And this graphic is from October. I actually need to update it with some of the recent EPA awards earlier this spring, but we have districts all over the Commonwealth, neighboring districts. Wherever you are, people are exploring this change and making this change with many electrified school buses, zero-emission school buses. Just setting out a a bit of a baseline that in order to make change and to buy a big vehicle, it's important to have buy-in from community executives and the financial teams in the communities, from the fleet manager, oftentimes political needs from a political group, such as if it's a school purchase, checking in with the school board, and being sure that your driving and maintenance facilities, parents groups, and more are aware of the change as you make it. Each one of them can be supporters in the change that you seek. And if you find conflicting viewpoints, that is a good point to take a note and seek out some peer and partner assistance. But it might be a lack of information, or it might be people are concerned about the lack of funding, and that's where programs like this heavy duty vehicle replacement come in. If it's an information issue, there is a range of technical assistance programs, including Clean Cities, but also driveelectric.gov has a wealth of resources. Procurement options. These buses have been bought all over Virginia because they are sold by the same bus vendors that sell the diesel buses. And so wanted to flag that, similar to school districts, you just would check your procurement requirements for any type of heavy duty purchase. And my note here is just to start the journey, investing in the process. It might be work, but there's a great return. Coordinating with your utilities. In Virginia, we have some very energized utilities that are willing to assist, but they may have a longer time frame, and your equipment may have a long schedule for the procurement of transformers, for example, if it's a lot of DC fast charging. So understanding your rate structure, working with your utility can help you plan. And this is not like buying the first iPhone. Those things came with the chargers, and now the new iPhones don't come with the chargers. Plan your charge when you're purchasing your first vehicles, just so that the vehicles and the chargers, the chargers arrive before the vehicles get there. And then planning your routes. There is a little bit of difference with this technology. So just planning your routes, thinking in terms of how much power is on the vehicle, and then how much does that expend to go those miles of those routes. And then I guess I would just emphasize that a lot of programs allow you to braid in some of the federal tax credits. And so I wanted to mention that there is a clean commercial heavy duty tax credit of $40,000 per vehicle. That is eligible for municipalities. We have direct pay tax credits for clean energy in the United States now. So I wanted to flag that, as well as for certain locations, the alternative fuel vehicle refueling property credit of up to $100,000. It's a 30% credit, might be eligible. And please check with the IRS with your school district and team. And I'm hoping, and I am rewarded with our next speaker being present here, and we are doing individual shares. Emily, but I wanted to introduce Emily Sapio with the EPA, perfect, who is a life scientist in partnerships, programs, and grants, and she's going to tell us today about this critical clean heavy duty vehicle grant program. Emily.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm Emily Sapio, the Clean Heavy Duty Vehicles lead for Region 3. We also have Sydney Stern on the line as well. She'll be answering questions in the chat. If you attended the last two national sessions, this will be a combination of both of those webinars. So I'm going to jump right out into it for the sake of time. And I'm not going to. So we're going to start with an overview of the Clean Heavy Duty Vehicles program. EPA anticipates awarding about $1 million in funding under the Notice of Funding Opportunity. Eligible activities include the replacement of existing non-zero emission Class 6 and 7 Class 7 heavy duty vehicles with zero emission vehicles, as well as the purchase and installation of associated infrastructure and workforce development and training. There are two subprograms under this. The first is the school bus subprogram, and there is also one for non-school bus vehicle replacement projects, which is the vocational vehicle subprogram. There's also a set aside for tribal and territory applicants. EPA is committed to ensuring the Clean Heavy Duty Vehicle program also delivers on the Justice 40 initiative to ensure that At least 40% of the benefits of certain federal investments flow to disadvantaged communities. Per the statute, at least 400 million of the funding under this NOFO will be going to applications that replace vehicles to serve one or more communities located in a non-attainment area. Now we'll go over the program details. Eligible activities and costs. Under the vehicle replacements, EPA will offer funding to cover the incremental cost of replacing a non-zero emission Class 6-7 heavy-duty vehicle with Class 6-7 zero-emission vehicle. Zero-emission vehicles include battery electric vehicles and hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. Infrastructure. Funding may be used for the purchase and installation of infrastructure that will support vehicles replaced under this program. Workforce development and training. Funding may be used to pay for driver mechanic training related to the maintenance and operation of new technologies and vehicle warranties. Implementation costs. Funding may be used to cover costs directly related to the implementation, management, and oversight of the project, and this includes recipient and subrecipient personnel and benefits, contractual services, consulting on vehicle deployments, travel, supplies, and indirect costs. Eligible applicants include states, including territories, municipalities, such as school districts, Indian tribes, and nonprofit school transportation. Note by statute, third-party contractors, OEMs, dealers, EAS providers, private bus fleets, etc., are not eligible to apply directly to this grant competition, but may participate by encouraging eligible applicants to apply and subsequently participating in the bidding process during the procurement process after the grants are awarded. The eligible vehicles under this program include Class 6-7 school buses, Class 6-7 vocational vehicles, including but not limited to delivery trucks, utility trucks, bucket trucks, other box trucks, refuse haulers and dump trucks, and Class 6-7 transit buses. Class 6 and Class 7 vehicles include vehicles with a gross vehicle weight rating between 19,501 and 33,000 pounds. This is the Clean Heavy Duty Vehicle Grant Program structure. As mentioned, it's two sub-programs. First is the school bus sub-program. The funding under this program is 70% of the total funds offered. Eligible vehicles include the Class 6-7 school buses, and applicants must apply for a minimum of 10 buses. Under the vocational vehicle sub-program, 30% of the total funds will fund vehicles under this, and the eligible vehicles were what was mentioned, the non-school bus Class 6-7 vehicles, and the list that was provided prior. A minimum of 3 vehicles per application must be applied for under this program. Here is a nice little table that breaks this down, the funding per replacement vehicle. The EPA will fund up to the EPA cost share percentage of the new vehicle up to the per vehicle funding cap as shown in the table. Applicants will be responsible for providing or securing the remaining costs. Please note that applicant cost share is waived for tribal and territory applicants, but such applicants are still subject to the per vehicle cost caps shown in the table. Also want to note the project implementation costs. Eligible additional project costs include those costs directly related to the implementation, management, and oversight of the project, and including vehicle delivery costs. Project implementation costs are not included or subject to the per vehicle caps listed in the table. Also, EDA compliant school buses are eligible for an additional $20,000 per vehicle funding cap. As mentioned, IRS tax credits. Grantees may be eligible for IRA tax credits applicable to their vehicle infrastructure purchase, mainly the commercial clean vehicle credit, which provides up to $40,000 for qualified commercial clean vehicles, and the alternative fuel vehicle refueling property credit, which provides up to $100,000 for qualified charging and refueling infrastructure. EPA cannot give tax advice. Please refer to the IRS website for further information regarding this. Now we're going to go into the eligible existing vehicles. Applicants' existing vehicles must be a Class 6 or 7 heavy-duty vehicle with a gross vehicle weight rating between 19,501 pounds to 33,000 pounds. Be fully operational at the time of application submission. Be an engine model year 2010 or older diesel-powered vehicle that will be scrapped if selected for funding. If a fleet does not have eligible engine model year 2010 or older diesel-powered vehicles, the fleet can either scrap an EMY 2010 or older non-diesel internal combustion engine powered vehicle, scrap, sell, or donate an EMY 2011 or newer diesel or non-diesel ICE powered vehicle, move an EMY 2011 or newer diesel or non-diesel ICE powered vehicle to a reduced service fleet, and scrap an EMY 2010 or older reduced service vehicle in its place. Also, all school buses must have provided bus services to a public school district at least 3 days per week on average during the 2022-2023 school year at the time of application, excluding emergency-related school closures. All other non-school bus vehicles must have accumulated at least 7,000 miles per year during each of the 2 years prior to replacement. The mileage of 2 or more vehicles may be combined to reach 7,000 miles per year, where 2 or more vehicles will be scrapped, sold, or donated and replaced by a single vehicle. For tribal and territorial applicants, the mileage minimum is 5,000 miles per year during each of the 2 years prior to replacement. If a vehicle does not meet the mileage requirement, the applicant can demonstrate that the vehicle has idled at least 500 hours per year during the 2 years prior to replacement. And this is also found in section 3-D of the NOFO if you want to look for the specific eligibility information. Eligible new replacement vehicles must be a zero-emission vehicle. Vehicles which have been converted to a zero-emission drivetrain after the first retail sale are not eligible. The conversion of a vehicle to a battery electric drivetrain is not an eligible cost or activity. Be a Class 6 or Class 7 heavy-duty vehicle. Must be an engine model year 23 or newer that is certified to conform with all applicable federal motor vehicle safety standards. Be ordered only after receiving official notice of award for EPA funding. Be purchased, not leased, or leased to own. It must not be manufactured or retrofitted with or otherwise have installed a power unit or other technology that creates air pollution within the vehicle, such as an unvented diesel passenger heater. And it also must not be purchased or otherwise subsidized with other federal grant funds. The total of funds from the Clean Heavy Duty Vehicle Grant and other eligible external funds allocated for the vehicle replacement cannot exceed the cost of the new vehicles. And we're also going to get into Build America, Buy America requirements momentarily. Now let's go over the eligible infrastructure equipment. For the electric vehicle supply equipment, eligible infrastructure is limited to installation and upgrades behind the meter up to the charging port, including but not limited to charging equipment such as alternating current level 2 charging equipment, direct current, DC fast charging equipment, or vehicle to grid enabled equipment. Design and engineering, installation costs such as trenching, wiring, electrical upgrades, labor, and permitting, related intelligent equipment and software designed to monitor vehicle and infrastructure performance, such as telematics or charge management software. Build America, Buy America requirements apply to eligible vehicle charging infrastructure equipment. EPA funds cannot be used for any infrastructure costs associated with work in front of the electrical meter. For the hydrogen fueling infrastructure, eligible infrastructure includes, but is not limited to, storage tanks, liquid and gaseous pumps and vaporizers, compressors, heat exchangers, chillers, piping, and pipelines within the relevant facility, high-pressure dispensers, including hose, nozzles, and meters. Build America, Buy America requirements apply to eligible hydrogen fueling infrastructure equipment. Also, all electricians installing, operating, or maintaining EVSE are required to be certified from the Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Training Program or another program approved by the EPA in consultation with the Department of Labor and the Department of Transportation. To find a certified electrician in your area, you can visit this website. Also, these slides are on the website currently, and then the session that was held nationally the other day, they should be posted shortly. So any of the links that you see in this presentation, you will have access to. And this is just to reiterate the infrastructure funding restrictions. All non-eligible expenses would be on the front of the meter, which includes the utility distribution network and the transformer, and anything that is behind the meter, the electric meter, electric panel, charging infrastructure unit, battery energy storage systems, the electric vehicle itself, and the renewable on-site power generation systems are eligible expenses. Hydrogen fueling infrastructure funding restrictions. Ineligible expenses for hydrogen include off-site installation activities, including but not limited to H2 delivery and off-site piping and pipelines. Eligible expenses include storage tanks, liquid gaseous pumps and vaporizers, compressors, heat exchangers, chillers, piping and pipelines within the relevant facility, and high pressure dispensers, including hose, nozzles, and meters, and the vehicles themselves. Now we'll get into the Build America, Buy America requirements. So what is Build America, Buy America? Under this, certain infrastructure projects are subject to BABA provisions of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, also known as the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. BABA requires items that are predominantly iron and steel, manufactured products, and construction materials used in federal infrastructure projects to be produced in the U.S. How does BABA impact the Clean Heavy Duty Vehicle Program? The Clean Heavy Duty Vehicle Program is subject to Build America, Buy America, which requires that applicants apply a Buy America preference to all federal financial assistance projects where funds are appropriated or otherwise made available and used for a project for infrastructure. The EPA has determined that school buses are not subject to BABA. Please monitor EPA's Build America, Buy America website for updates regarding EPA general applicability waivers and for information on applying for project level waivers. Now we're going to discuss workforce development and job quality. For workforce planning and preparations are critical, important elements of successful zero-emission vehicle deployment. Workforce planning should focus on all workers associated with the project, including current drivers, mechanics, electricians, and other essential personnel, safe operations and maintenance of new vehicles and infrastructure for workers, job quality for workers, and adequate support during the transition, including worker voice and representation throughout the process. Eligible project costs associated with workforce development include driver mechanic training related to maintenance and operation of new technologies, training to certify licensed electricians to install EVSE, such as through the Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Training Program. Additional workforce development and training resources can be found at the link here. Now we'll go over the application package. Most importantly, the project narrative. A complete application requires a project narrative or work plan. The project narrative must align with the proposed budget and contain milestones and measurable outputs and outcomes. Mandatory documents to include in your application package. First, as we just discussed, was the application narrative. Applicants are not required, but are highly encouraged to use the project narrative template, which can be found on grants.gov. The project narrative, including the cover page, work plan, and budget table in detail, must not exceed a maximum of 15 single-spaced typewritten pages. Pages in excess of the 15-page limit will not be reviewed by the reviewers. Applicant fleet description. Applicants must use the applicant fleet description template contained in the supplemental application document provided in the grants.gov application package. This part is not optional. You must use this template. The purpose of the supplemental application template is to describe in detail the specific vehicles targeted for emission reductions, as well as installation of charging or fueling equipment to be implemented under the proposed project. Cost share commitment letters, if applicable. Projects are subject to the mandatory cost share and cap requirements, which are on this, it's not slide 12, but the past slide. If the resource of the applicant's proposed cost share is a named project partner, the applicant must provide a letter of commitment from the named project partner. Letters should be addressed to the applicant organization and include as an attachment to the application. Please do not ask partners to submit letters directly to the EPA. They must be included in your application attachments. Okay, continued is the school board awareness. If this applies to you and you're applying under the school bus subprogram, you're required to upload documentation verifying that the school board is aware of the Clean Heavy Duty Vehicle grant application. A school board awareness certification template is available in the grants.gov application for applicants to use. An authorized representative, such as a superintendent or their representative, will sign the form to demonstrate that the school board is aware of the application and involved in the process of transitioning to a cleaner fleet. This documentation is non-binding, meaning that applicants do not need to fully commit to proceeding with a potential new bus project if selected for funding. I recommend getting this in on time. If you're selected for funding and we haven't received this yet, we see that this has delayed the process a lot. So you just want to make sure that you get this in at the time of application. And this goes for the utility partnership as well. If this applies to you, applicants are proposing to replace their vehicles with electric vehicles are required to provide documentation demonstrating coordination with the utility or utilities. A utility partnership template is available in the grants.gov application for applicants to use. Planning early for long-term infrastructure needs is important for project success. To prepare for the clean heavy-duty vehicle application, EPA recommends that applicants identify their utility and begin coordinating or consulting with them on project feasibility, including charging needs, upgrades needed, costs, rates for future service, and the time frame for necessary upgrades. This is also non-binding. You do not need to complete a full utility analysis prior to being selected for funding. You just need to make sure that you provide this partnership agreement. Now we're going to review the application evaluation process. Step 1 is the threshold criteria review. Application is submitted by deadline via grants.gov. Applicants in the school bus subprogram must request a minimum of 10 school buses. Applicants in the vocational vehicle subprogram, as we know, must request a minimum of 3 vehicles. Applications in the school bus subprogram cannot include non-school bus vehicles. Applications in the vocational vehicle subprogram cannot include school buses. Applicants may only submit 1 application per subprogram. Applicants must identify 1 EPA region for their application based on the proposed location. And applications must meet a requirement as defined in the NOFO to be considered eligible. Applicants must meet threshold criteria to move on to step 2. Step 2 is the evaluation criteria. This includes the project summary and approach, environmental results, outputs, outcomes, performance measures, programmatic capability and past performance, environmental justice in disadvantaged communities, project readiness, project sustainability, climate resilience, job quality and workforce development, funding beyond the mandatory cost share, and the budget. Applicants should explicitly address these criteria as part of their application package submittal in the project narrative. Following these content requirements are set forth in the NOFO, so please refer to that. Step 3 is selection notification. The anticipated timing for notification of selection is November of this year. School bus and vocational vehicle applications will be reviewed by separate panels. Applicants under the tribal and territory set-aside will be evaluated under a separate review panel. In making the final funding decisions, the EPA selection official may also consider quantity and quality of applications received, geographic diversity of funds, number and size of awards, environmental benefits, support for communities with air quality, and other challenges. And also the diversity of business models and other agency and programmatic priorities. Selectees will be notified by telephone, email, or postal mail by U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Next steps on how to apply and resources. So next steps on how to apply include visit the Clean Heavy Duty Vehicle website for tools and resources. There's an FAQ document on there and other resources, and the slides that are being shown today will be on there, and also links to the NOFO and other materials. Make sure to also register your organization with grants.gov and sam.gov. Prepare application package, and then submit application package on grants.gov by July 25th, 2024 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern is the cutoff. Next steps for more information about the Iowa Clean Heavy Duty Vehicles Program, resource and related funding opportunities. As mentioned, please visit the website at Clean Heavy Duty Vehicles Program, EPA.gov. Questions and answers are on there, and also the NOFO. And then you can also refer to Appendix B in the NOFO for an application submission checklist to ensure that all required materials are included in your application package. Other tools and resources include technical assistance through the Joint Office of Energy and Transportation, and you can check that out at this link. EPA encourages potential applicants to reach out to their utility early. As mentioned, see technical assistance website for relevant resources to help you out with that. Technical assistance for school bus projects can be found here. And then there's data and tools from the Joint Office as well, and an overview of the initial steps an applicant must complete to apply for an EPA grant can be found at the last link. Other steps, EPA grant applications are submitted online. Applicants must be registered in 2 government systems to apply. The system for award management is sam.gov, registers organizations to conduct business with the U.S. government, which includes federal grants. And you should also be registered with grants.gov, which is our official system for managing all federal grant applications. These two systems share information. Together, they provide access to everything needed to identify federal grant opportunities and complete the online application process. So in order to obtain your unique entity identifier, you want to go to sam.gov and register your organization. Applicants must register with sam.gov to obtain a unique entity identifier, UEI, which is a 12-character identifier assigned to each unique organization. There's no fee for registering with sam.gov, and registration must be renewed annually. If you think you have sam.gov already, just make sure you check that that you don't need to renew your account, because this could delay the process. Registration in sam.gov requires providing assertions, representations, and certifications and other information so that federal government can verify the existence and uniqueness of the organization. Go to sam.gov entity registration page to get started, and organizations will need to designate an e-business point of contact. After the information submitted through the registration process is authenticated, the EBIZ POC will receive an email from sam.gov indicating that the registration is active. Step 2 is to create a user account and applicant profile in grants.gov. After obtaining a UEI, an applicant must create a profile in grants.gov in 2 steps. Create a user account in grants.gov with the same email address used by the EBIZ point of contact in sam.gov. Create the applicant profile in grants.gov using the UEI obtained from sam.gov. Step 3, create individual grant.gov accounts for organization members. Learn how to use Workspace in grants.gov. And then for more detailed information, you can visit the website below. Next steps is to prepare application package. You want to prepare your SF-424 application for federal assistance, your 424A budget information for non-construction programs. And I won't exhaust the full list, but you can see it here. And the following mandatory documents, as applicable, should be uploaded using the other attachments form in grants.gov. And this includes applicant fleet description, documentation of partnership or utility, documentation of school board awareness if it applies to you, third-party approval if applicable, and intertribal consortium documentation if it applies, and cost share commitment letters. Additional information can be referenced in the NOFO as well. And then finally is step 4, submit your application package. And this must be submitted by July 25th, 2024 at 11:59 p.m. Now we're going to go over a brief overview of the grant forms and the FAQs. This will include the federal grant forms that we just discussed, the supplemental grant forms, and some frequently asked questions, and then we'll close with summary. Filling out your grant forms. First things first, read the NOFO and the question and answer doc and check the terms and conditions. If you still have questions, contact Clean Heavy Duty Vehicle Helpline at cleanhdvehicles@epa.gov. The mandatory federal grant forms, we're going to go over the form, the SF-424, the SF-424A, the 4700 form, and the key contacts form. So this is the standard form 424. You want to make sure that you are, when you fill this out, that this is an application type of submission, and that this is for new, that this is a new application. Make sure that is checked. And then at the bottom, you see in red circled, you will enter your UEI that you registered with sam.gov here. And then you just want to make sure that your address is accurate and matches your sam.gov. If they don't match up, this will delay the award if you are selected for funding, because these will have to be corrected and they have to match. And same with your point of contact, make sure that this is filled out correctly and that this is the correct contact. For the standard form 424A, this is where you'll enter your budget information. Please make sure that this is filled out fully and correctly. As mentioned, like if there's any kind of discrepancy, this will just delay the process. So you want to make sure that this is filled out accurately. And then the 4700 form, same thing, make sure that this matches your other information. This is required by all applicants and recipients requesting EPA financial assistance. So make sure that this is filled out as it should be. And lastly, key contact form. This is going to be your point of contact and the first person that we reach out for if we need edits or need to get in contact with anybody. Make sure that this also matches your SAN.gov address that you enter. Yeah, just everything just needs to be matching and coherent. Lastly, training, guidance, and help. EPA grants website, EPA grants management training for applicants and recipients, and how to develop a budget development guidance, EPA grants webinars, and SAN.gov getting started. All are helpful links that you can access here. Now we'll go over supplemental applicant forms. This includes the grant electric utility partnership template, the board awareness certification, and third-party approval certification. Utility partnership template. Applicants requesting battery electric vehicles are required to complete the utility partnership template. The goal is to ensure that applicants seeking to electrify their fleet fully understand the anticipated costs and timelines of electrification. Planning early for an electrified fleet's long-term infrastructure needs is important for project success. As noted in the template, the EPA recommends discussing both the anticipated costs and timelines of this potential electrification project and the applicant's future plans for electrification. The future proofing for upcoming needs may ultimately decrease the overall utility upgrade costs, and applicants completing this template may choose to reference it and or discuss the information provided in the template as additional demonstration of engagement with the utility under the project sustainability section of the project narrative. And here's just an overview. You want to make sure that this is all filled out accurately, such as the type of number of electric vehicle equipment, number of DC fast charger units, or if you're using level 2, the number of chargers that you'll be getting, the number of other EV charger units if you're getting something different, number of shore power pedestals, number of units of other eligible charging and refueling infrastructure, and also include the expected locations where the chargers and the infrastructure will be installed at. Utility information. This is the utility provider section. The EPA recommends that applicants fill out information for each individual utility provider they are communicating with about their potential electric infrastructure project. The EPA recommends that applicants communicating with more than one utility identify whether the project scope occurring with a specific utility provider would constitute all or only part of the potential electric infrastructure project. So if a utility provider, if you're speaking with multiple utility providers, and they're providing you any kind of like information or assistance, just include them along in the list, but also note which utility provider is will be actually doing the groundwork. Applicant utility coordination affirmation. This is just where you're going to sign off, straightforward. And then optional planning for utility upgrades. This section is not required to be completed or submit the EPA, but however, we strongly encourage applicants and utility providers to discuss the items listed in section 4. This will only serve as a benefit to you. Additionally, applicants should keep fleet electrification expansion plans in mind as future proofing for upcoming needs and can ultimately decrease overall utility upgrade costs. Next is a third-party approval certification. The third-party applicants applying on behalf of a school district to the school bus sub-program are required to complete the third-party approval certification. The goal is to ensure awareness of all parties involved in the potential new bus project. The form is non-binding. We just need to have this at the time of application. And this is just an overview of that, straightforward. Just make sure that you receive the signatures for all. We've had cases where might have been signed or filled out, but we didn't receive those signatures, so we would have to go back for that to be completed. Next is the school board awareness certification. Applicants to the school bus sub-program are required to complete the school board awareness certification template. The goal is to verify the school board's awareness of the Clean Heavy Duty Vehicle grant application, and the form is also non-binding. Note, applicants to the vocational vehicle sub-program have the option to modify this form to demonstrate support from any state or municipal office that will need to approve the purchase and replacement of vehicles and infrastructure under this application, if selected. And same thing, straightforward. Now we're going to go into some frequently asked questions before we close out. So first, how many vehicles can be replaced? Applicants applying through the school district subprogram must replace a minimum of 10 school buses. Applicants applying through the vocational vehicles subprogram must replace a minimum of 3 vehicles. Tribal and territory applicants are not subject to vehicle replacement minimums, and there is no maximum limit set for the vehicle replacements. Can multiple eligible applicants from the same EPA region jointly apply to this program on a single application? While an eligible applicant may partner with any number of partners that are own or operate fleets, a single eligible organization or entity must be the applicant. This single applicant will ultimately be the direct recipient of the grant, and you can refer to pages 1 and 2 of the NOFO for additional info on this. Eligible applicants are not for-profit higher education institutes eligible applicants. No, in section 3D of the NOFO specifically excludes institutions of higher education from the definition of nonprofit organizations. So no, not-for-profit are not eligible applicants. Eligible vehicles are any classes of vehicles other than class 6 and 7 vehicles eligible for replacement. No, per the clean heavy duty vehicle provisions in the IRS statute and section 2D of the NOFO, vehicles to be replaced must be a class 6 or 7 heavy duty vehicle with a gross vehicle weight rating of 19,501 to 33,000 pounds. Eligible costs and funding amounts. Is there a cost sharing or matching fund requirement for this grant? Yes, applicants are subject to the mandatory cost share as described in section 3B1 of the NOFO. The mandatory cost share is waived for territory and tribal applicants, but territory and tribal applicants are still subject to the per vehicle cost caps described in table 2 of the NOFO. Applicants are not required to, but may also choose to commit to a voluntary cost share and/or leverage resources as described in the sections 3B2 and 3B3 of the NOFO. EPA will award evaluation points for voluntary cost share and leveraged funding commitments as described in the NOFO. Application process. Can a state apply for CHDV grant program funding and subaward to other entities through its own grant program? Grant recipients may make subawards to subrecipients to carry out a portion of the grant project. In such cases, the grant recipient is also known as a pass-through entity. Subawards establish a financial assistance relationship under which the subrecipients, employees, and contractors implement programs and projects to accomplish the goals and objectives of the grant. As noted in the NOFO, Appendix A, subrecipients are subject to the same federal requirements as the pass-through entity. Under this competition, a non-federal entity is eligible to receive a subaward, even if it is not eligible to receive a grant from the EPA directly. And you can also review that on page 1 and 2 of the NOFO, along with section 1F. Terms and conditions. Has the EPA requested a Build America, Buy America waiver for vocational vehicles replacements funded through the Clean Heavy Duty Vehicle Grant Program? Where and when will the EPA provide additional guidance on projects subject to BABA provisions? As mentioned earlier, applicants to the Vocational Vehicle Subprogram are advised to apply for procurement plans subject to BABA provisions, as the EPA cannot guarantee future applicable BABA program waivers for vocational vehicles. Project level waivers may be applicable depending on applicable factors. Please monitor the website for any changes and updates regarding Build America, Buy America. And lastly are some important dates. Monday, July 8th is the final date to submit questions to the helpline at Clean HD Vehicles at EPA.gov. Thursday, July 25th, 2024 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern is when the notice of funding opportunity closes, the application deadline. Application packages must be submitted electronically to EPA through grants.gov no later than this date. And as of right now, we are anticipating notification of selection by November 2024, and we anticipate awarding by December 2024. This is subject to change depending on how long the review process goes. And in summary, the 2024 Clean Heavy Duty Vehicle NOFO and question and answer documents will be posted bi-weekly on the web page. And as mentioned, the deadline to submit is July 8th. Any questions? Application packages must be submitted to EPA via grants.gov at this date. I'm sure everyone's tired of me saying this date by this point, but there it is again. Next steps, register your organization with sam.gov and grants.gov. Begin coordinating with your utilities, school boards, and other partners, and start engaging with your community. Visit the website for resources and updates, and prepare and submit your application package. And then these are some other helpful resource links. And to stay in touch, you can find the NOFA at the website, submit the questions if you have any to the helpline. And if you haven't already, sign up for the listserv at this website link below. And that is all I have today. Thank you so much.
Emily, thank you so much. And we're just so lucky to have the EPA here to give that direct comment. Everybody saw the links for questions, but this is also just a teaser to also add questions using the Zoom Q&A feature. It is my great pleasure to introduce Bobby Monticello, who is one of my great friends and somebody I look up to in the transition to these zero-emission heavy-duty vehicles. Bobby is the campaign's Northern Virginia campaigner for Mothers Out Front, and Mothers Out Front have been active in this particular area, communicating with community members, which is a critical step. So I just want to pass it over to Bobby.
Thanks so much, Alan. I will pull up my PowerPoint, but we'll just zoom through it so that people have time for questions. Can y'all see it? Hopefully.
Yeah, Bobby, it's perfect.
Okay. So really, I just wanted to share, like, Mothers Up Front only works on electric school buses. So I'm sure some of this can be extrapolated out to heavy duty vehicles, but in general, the reason why we do our work, where we have teams of volunteers on the ground all throughout Virginia, working with school districts to encourage them to apply for programs like the Clean Heavy Duty Vehicle Program. And we share the information that the EPA gives us, but we also share kind of the why. And so I thought I would share what we say to school districts when we go. And these are some of the points that really made a big impact on me when I started doing this work back in 2019 with Fairfax County. Really, the biggest thing that drives me is knowing that that big black cloud that comes out of the back of the school bus is concentrated inside the bus up to 10 times. And so that's what our kids are breathing for hours potentially per day. And drivers too. So in, other heavy duty vehicles, it's a harm to drivers, but especially to our kids and their developing lungs. These particulates in the diesel bus emissions can cause asthma for sure. They are classified as carcinogens and also can cause developmental delays and educational deficits. So it's really kind of a scary thing. And that's why as moms, this is our big motivator. And let's see if I can switch my slides, sorry. Okay, I can't. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but in any case, I'm just gonna go over the other really quick point because we don't have a ton of time. In Virginia, we have 17,000 school buses, diesel school buses, about. Fairfax County, where I live, has the second largest school bus fleet in the country with 1,650 buses. And to this date, 73 of those, either on the road or on order, are electric. And so we have a long way to go, but we've made a ton of progress since I started working with them in 2019. And now across the state, as Alan showed you, and that map didn't even include the latest awards. I mean, so many counties are going electric, and we're making tons of progress, but these federal grants really make a big effect on the total cost of ownership. Specifically for school districts, they have a budget for a diesel bus, and the electric bus is, twice or 3 times more expensive. So it's these federal grants that make it possible and really bring the total cost of ownership over the lifetime of the bus down below what a diesel bus would be. So on top of it being a financial benefit for schools, it's obviously a huge benefit for public health. And not to mention climate, every diesel bus we buy locks us into 10 to 15 more years of diesel emissions. And as we know, we don't have that kind of time to keep putting emissions out into the world. And with this many buses in Virginia, it's the largest mass transit system in the state. It's kind of low-hanging fruit to get them transitioned over to electric and get those emissions get those emissions down. So that's my basic overview, and I will pass it on because I know we don't have a lot of time. But thank you so much, Ellen.
And did you want to try to just click the right arrow at all to see any of those slides? You feel pretty good. I see you turning it off.
It's all good.
So you heard from the EPA about a number of different forms and the challenges of grants and other programs. So I just wanted to emphasize that a lot of the forms that the federal government requires are mostly just trying to get you to appropriately to say who you are, to enter your business information into those grants.gov spreadsheets. But we've got some partners that can help. The utilities can help. And then we also have some technology providers that can help both with the infrastructure and the vehicles. And I'm so glad to be joined here today with Claire, with Highland Transportation, which does a lot of the school bus efforts. But Claire is the Eastern Regional Manager of Market for Highland. Claire?
Thanks, Alan. And let me just share my slides really quickly, but I believe we will be sending these slides around afterwards. So I likely will not get to all of them, and that is okay. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Can everyone see? All right, Alan, if you can just give me a
Yep, heads up. It's all
You
good.
can see great.
Oh, it looks really great too with you in front of your slides.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Great. Well, like I said, we'll share these around afterwards, and I want to make sure we have time for Q&A. I don't think I need to go over this. The interest in electrification is growing for all the reasons that Bobby pointed out, for all of the federal money. Previously, a lot of concerns around electrification have kind of delayed action, despite the kind of community health benefits. So the big three would be affordability, risk and reliability, and complexity. So when Highland Electric Fleets was founded back in 2019, this is kind of what our CEO had in mind, was how can electric school buses have all these great benefits and nobody is really electrifying? So the one that my slides focus on is really under the complexity bucket and that ability to scale. Like Bobby mentioned, there are fleets like Fairfax where they have really huge fleets, right? And so one or two buses, more of a pilot is really not going to cut it if a school district wants to eventually electrify their full fleet. And so getting school districts to a point where they feel comfortable not only implementing the buses that they have at the moment, but additional electrics. So obviously there is a lot that's required to electrify your fleets, and it looks different from the processes that school districts go through now when they're just procuring their diesel buses. And some of these have been touched on already. So the interconnection and installation, and that's just kind of reiterating how important it is to talk to your utility. And by requiring those certain forms, in the CHDV program and the Clean School Bus program, the EPA is kind of ensuring that you talk to your utility. Chargers and charge management. Charging your school bus is obviously kind of a new aspect to electric school buses. And so making sure that the buses are charged, first and foremost to kind of serve their routes, but also kind of being a responsible member of the electric grid, charging it off peak hours, things like that. And then operations and maintenance. So I think it's really important. Something that we do at Highland when we work with a school district is that we train all of the existing maintenance workers and school bus drivers and whoever it is on the ground to work with the electric vehicles and the charging infrastructure. I think it's a great transferable skill to have. And so this, I encourage you to look at this. It's a scary slide. It's meant to be a little bit scary and fear-inducing because this is just kind of what it takes. And this is 12 to 18 months before your school bus is actually delivered. So I do encourage folks to look at this slide and this slide as well. It really is just kind of laying out for you all the different things that are involved in the process of electrifying your depot. So why now? I think, again, it's pretty evident the market's evolving, increasing education, right, from folks like Bobby and others out front new business models from folks like Highland. We offer fleet electrification as a service. So encourage everyone to look into that or shoot me an email if you have questions about it. And then obviously a lot more grants as we see from the EPA. This is just information about states with mandates in place. I think, for Region 3, maybe we have some folks on here from Maryland. There is an electric school bus mandate in place for school districts to purchase electric school buses. So that's just important to note. And yeah, so what does this mean for your district leadership? I think, again, for states with a mandate, it's all about being able to scale your electric fleet. So you're not doing a 1 or 2 or 3 bus pilot. You're actually trying to see how you can get to a replacement rate where you're only replacing your buses when you go out to buy new buses with electric buses. Also, the current federal funding, as Emily went over with Clean Heavy Duty, Clean School Bus Program, it's not going to be around forever. So it's, we really encourage folks to take advantage of it now. And for states without a mandate, the opportunity to take advantage of the federal incentives. If your state doesn't have an incentive program, now is the time to do that. So apologies if I blew through that, but my email is right there. It's just claire@highlandfleets.com. Always feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. And yeah, thank you so much.
Well, Claire and Emily and Bobby
Thank you so much for tuning in, and a special thank you to the EPA and all of our speakers today for their presentations. It was great and informative. We really appreciate it here at Virginia Clean Cities. Also, if you're listening today and you made it this far, we hope that you will submit a grant application for the Clean Heavy Duty Vehicle Program. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out to any of us. Our contact information is below this video. And please feel free to comment any questions you might have below this video. We will get to them when we can, but the best way to get a hold of us is via email. Thank you so much. My name is Greg Brennan, and this is Virginia Clean Cities, signing off.